you see that big? That's not just a big flat table. That's the beginning of a new hot rod.
This is a new start for us. It's going to be a couple of tape measures, some squares, angle finders. We're going to show you how from scratch to build your own 30's Roadster frame.
That's right, it's very easy, it's simple. By the end of the day today, we're going to have a rear end, front suspension. We're going to show you how. Stay tuned. Go, fresh Nixon sketch right there.
Nice, very nice rendering. You know what I like about a rendering is it gives you motivation. You can get neck deep in a project this big and you start to burn out a little bit. You go check out what it is you're actually trying to achieve.
Start wanting to hang yourself. It takes so long. Now, what we're doing a 32 to 33 hybrid. So it's going to look similar, a little bit of both, 32 front end, 33 doors.
It's going to have your own style and touch to it, which is cool.
Fully custom. So first thing we need to do is get a nice platform. We've got our nice unijig frame jig here. It's good and flat and square. This gives us something to build off of, a table, if you will, to measure.
Yeah, but any table you might start out on, it's going to end up all crooked and whatnot, but this jig is nice because everything is square and flat like you said, and we're going to get a nice ground line and start moving from there.
First thing to do on these is that we're going to set our wheelbase. So we decided to go with 113, which was 33 forward plus an inch. I can't leave anything stock. So we're going to push it out just a hair, and we've set up cross members at our rear end and at our front end. So that's our start. Now the second thing we need to do is determine where the center of the rear end needs to be. We got 29 inches, so the center of our rear end will be 14.
Right, now this is going to be our ground line forever. So we're going to hang our axle in a little bit right off that center. It's going to hang in space. We're going to start building a jig off of our frame.
14.5 inches. Now, speaking of rear end, as we move our way forward, when we hang this rear end, we're going to have to make sure that we get everything off the center lines. You don't want to measure off the side every time. You want to get a good center off each cross member, scribe it hard, then you work your way out, everything's perfect.
Yeah, otherwise you could start getting sort of cattywampus as you build the car. Nothing's going to be straight and square like you want it.
Now let's move up to this rear end. Oh, look at that.
This is a nice piece.
Tiger quick change. Oh.
Yeah, now this isn't your traditional rear end. And why? It's because your ring and pinion are set, but you can do a quick gear change at the track. So this came from sort of the old school days. It's got a phenomenal look for a Roadster like this, but it's got that racing thoroughbred feel to it.
If you look in the back, this is where the gears will go. So when you turn the front here, you turn the yoke where the U-joint will go. There'll be a gear that turns, we'll turn the other. That in turn will grab this spline and turn over on this on the spool.
Yeah, now normally we'd want to turn the axle up over, get our center section bolted in, put our housing on, grab our other axle shaft and get it in there. But for right now, we want this thing to be as light as possible so we can mock up without it being big, bulky, and heavy. So we're going to do a quick mock up, bolt everything together nice and loose, then we can go over to the chassis and start building up our jigs and solidly mounting this thing in our new frame.
Once you get that together, and I'll start making our 14.5 inch cross members. All right, this thing's pretty light, huh?
Yeah, especially with all the guts in it. Now, as you can see, Brian already made basically a jig to hold this diff. Now, this is where it's going to sit in the air. This jig, obviously won't be here when we're done building the rest of the frame. We can get a couple measurements here and get it nice and squared, nice and straight side to side.
1 7/8. Same over here. Okay,
good.
Looking good.
Now, if you're going to build multiples of these, same tire diameter and everything, this jig could be used over and over again. You unbolt it, you label it, you set it to the side, so you can come back and get everything right where you want it to be time after time with a jig like this.
Now what we've got, now that we've got our height set for the rear end, we need to do pinion angle if you can hold that.
Sure.
Now pinion angle, we're going to go up 3 degrees on the rear end. We're going to go down 3 degrees at the tail shaft of the transmission. Reason being, that's going to put our U-joints in phase where you don't get a vibration down the road.
Yeah, they can get real nasty on you.
No bueno.
It's amazing what a couple degrees can do for you.
Okay, so if you can hold that.
Me.
I'm not going to burn you.
Okay.
And the reason I'm using a MIG versus a TIG is I've got one hand free, and it's a lot easier tack to break if you decide you want to move it.
Okay, we're right on there.
You ready? Let me know when you're ready. All right, Byrd. That ought to hold it, at least enough to roll around here.
Awesome. Well, we got a great start on our 4-link kit. As you can see, we've got just about everything you need to put a back half suspension together. We've got a cross member here. It's going to locate our front pickup points. We've got all the cutout plates for the rear ready to mount.
And if you're going to make power, the rear end, you want to be in there good and locked in, you know what I mean? So a nice kit like this, the one from Morrison, you know, it's so easy. I mean, we could bandsaw this stuff out, we could cut the tubes, we could weld everything, but why spend all that time when they've got it pre-engineered, it's computer cut,
Yeah.
and it comes with everything you need, right down to the rails, the panhard, the top shock mount, and everything you see, and it makes it so much faster and so much easier and so much more accurate.
Yeah, you've got everything in one place. It's all been gone through, and you're probably not going to make parts as high quality as you're going to get with a kit like this. So we're going to go ahead and get, you know, a few tacks here, and basically we're ready to start putting this all together. It's going to look like one big happy unit back there. So stick around. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
Tape measure not included.
See that.
This segment of Two Guys Garage is brought to you by Satisfied Brake Products, North America's leading independent manufacturer of friction technologies. Look to Satisfied for all of your stopping needs.
All right, we got our cross member here. What this is going to do, it's going to locate the front 2x4 that holds the 4-bar as Byrd is showing you there. And what we came up with, as he'll show you, is 24 inches. Now we've got 24 there, so that was really easy. Second thing we want to do is get our height. Now the way we get this height, as Byrd's going to show you again, I'm coming up with 10 5/8. Reason being, it's the difference between the bottom of this and the bottom of our 4-bar. And what we want is for those arms to be good and level. Level with not only the table, but also level with the ground. And it makes it real nice with this unijig. All we do is drill 1/2-inch holes, countersink it, and then let's say you want to move it with these CNC tapped holes, they're all even. So all you have to do is say, oh, I want to move back 2 inches. Change the hole, move it back, piece of cake.
Now before we made all these measurements, we had to make some fundamental decisions on what type of suspension. Now there's all types. Now we're going to run a 4-link. Now there's 3 links, there's triangulated 4 links, there's trailing arms, you name it. Now 4-link is great. It gives you a lot of fore-aft control on the axle shaft. And you can also do a lot of tuning. So you can change the angle of these arms and also the length of these arms and the position of these pins. It'll give you a different axle twist depending on how you want to load the car. And you can basically set it for all different kinds of applications. So 4-bar link is popular because it's a good drag race setup, road race setup, in this case, hot rod setup. Now these things go up and down and they're going to move a little bit forward depending on their arc, and that's why that setup is critical. Now there's nothing to keep a 4-bar link laterally controlled, so that's where the panhard bar comes in. So the panhard bar is basically going to weld to the frame and it's going to sweep through an arc, weld it to the axle. Now that's going to control all of our lateral motion. So I think with that, we're ready to install this bad boy.
Let's get it. All right, so we move this in, and because we've already pre-bolted these in, set up our length, there we go.
Right.
Now, that looks pretty good. Now I think what we did on our width, we're taking the original frame rail of a 33 Ford, which is right about 40 inches. And we've moved it in a couple of inches. We want it as wide as possible because you want a good shoulder width on the rear end, but you also want to have some good beefy tire. So a couple inches gives us some room. We're trying to get this right at about 0 degrees, and that looks pretty nice. So I think at this point, we're ready to tack it in and move to the next step.
Okay, let's get it on.
All right, we got our rear rail here. This comes with the kit, pre-bent, 2x4. Byrd's gonna hold up the spring, and we're gonna basically guesstimate right about this point, we're gonna cut it off. It's gonna be a really short car. There's no rear bumper, so there's nothing that we need behind that coilover.
Behind that coilover?
Exactly. So this thing's heavy. We're gonna get to it.
All right, I got this end cut.
There you go.
Now we can get the other end to match exactly by basically overlaying them. Got a nice mark line. Ready to cut that one too.
I'll clean that one up.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right, we got our rails tacked in there. Now this is a mock-up in order to give our travel of the rear end. This is going to be plenty of room, but it'll give us some extra just in case if we want to change the rear suspension at all. We got plenty of room for a bump stop, which is always a good idea. And then we try to make our rail flat on top. You can see that's a good 0 degrees. Now before we set this whole thing up, we made sure that the unijig was level in every direction. Cool thing is this has got threaded legs, so you want to be sure you get all that done before you start measuring, because all of a sudden if your floor is crooked and this is straight, guess what? Frame's crooked.
Yeah, now we got frame rails in. Now we can start mounting the suspension. So we've got our cross beam here. This is where our shocks are going to go. Nice hole saw here. These pins for the shock mounts go right in there. And that'll mount to the inside of each frame rail. We're going to put about a 16 to 18 degree slant on our spring shock combo. Once we get everything squared and leveled in the right angles we want, we can tack it in. This thing's going to start to look like a rear end with the suspension in it.
Right now we got to take a break. We're going to finish up this rear end. We come back, we got the SoCal front end to come on, so don't go away.
I'm assembling my engine. How can I protect it from the first critical start? We'll have the answer after the break. I'm assembling my engine. How can I protect it from the first critical start? Machine surfaces have rough and irregular finishes, which experience extreme temperatures at the initial startup. Using 5% Z-Max in the assembly oil provides maximum lubrication where it's needed. Also, use Z-Max in the engine oil supply before that first start. This tip is brought to you by Z-Max. Performance you can feel.
Hey, welcome back. As you can see, this back half's starting to come together really well. It's kind of exciting. You can start to see the shape of the car coming together, and it was pretty easy. We just spent a little bit of time measuring and checking. Now, a good tip, a square can turn into a rhombus really quick. So you always want to go corner to corner on anything on your frame and make sure that it's square as well as straight. Now we've got our rear shock tube cross beam mounted in. We've got our shock spring combination mounted in. So this back half is starting to look pretty good. Well, in the meantime, Brian's working on the front and he's getting the jig set up so we can start assembling the front end.
What we've got on the front, we've got a really cool traditional front end from SoCal Speed Shop. And we've determined that our front tire diameter here is, the center of that's going to be 12 inches. So our overall diameter is 24. That's going to get us a good ride height here in the front. Now in order to get our width, what we've done is just like we talked about before, always get a center line. So you come in center, then you take a square, scribe a nice hard line, then you've always got a good center to work off of. And then a good double check is, like Byrd said, you can cross measure a lot of stuff. That's a really good way to check square. But when you're using unijig, you know everything's square, so while you're there, you can go back in and double check with a regular square as well. So that's a good reason to have a nice fixturing system like this. It makes everything work easy. Now this front end we've got over here on the table, if you can hand me that I-beam. Now this is a drop forged axle. So they take hot metal thing out. It's a really nice piece. Yeah, and get this thing out. It's a really nice piece.
Yeah, so this is a nice 4-inch drop. You can get this in all kinds of different flavors, from drilled, chromed, polished, you name it. Now this is going to be a traditional setup. Brian's going to put a little fancy work into it later. Now we've got a whole kit here. They've given you pretty much everything. Now you can spend a lot of your own time chasing a lot of little parts, but you know, it's much more enjoyable to get a good foundation, and as you can see, start to build up your car pretty quickly because there's a lot to do.
Yeah, this has got stainless ends on it. These are chrome, stainless hardware. It comes with everything you need. We're going to show you the rest of the kit obviously going in, but the first thing we need to do is drop in the spindle. Now, these old ones, they had a kingpin that would locate right into the axle. Now, the problem that a lot of these aftermarket axles have and had was that if you used an original spindle, an original forged spindle, you had trouble getting full lock-to-lock turn on these. Well, this is a new piece from SoCal, and the great thing about these, you can bolt in an original axle, which a lot of the traditional guys are doing. Go ahead, put it in, and you'll get a lot more steering out of it because of the way they've made it. So if he can pop that one in, here's your kingpin. Now watch how easy this kingpin goes in. That is, that's nice quality there.
Wiggle. There we go, look at that.
Perfect. Okay, so now we'll bring this over. We're going to pop it into our jig. This is going to locate right where our front axle needs to be. And because of the axle, camber is this direction, the lean in and out. Camber is already determined by the axle. Now what we need to do is determine caster, which is the front to rear. What that's going to do is allow us to go straight. The more caster you have, the more it leans those back, the more we're going to be able to go straight line better. And on an application like this, we're looking at about 6 to 10 degrees. We're going to shoot for about probably 8.5. So I think
8.5?
Yeah.
We'll have to get that half in there somewhere.
All right, we got that tacked in.
Yeah, we got our hairpin suspension going in. Now that Brian's got his jig tacked together, we can assemble this leg of our front suspension. Now this is going to act as our control arm, so it's going to control our forward motion of our axles. We've got a panhard style bar going in.
Just like the rear.
And you can see how easy that spring perch dropped in.
Now the way we determined this, we started with the caster. 8.5 degrees, just like we talked about, coming off of the kingpin. Sets the spindle back, that's going to give us good straight line handling. Next thing we did, figured out the length that we needed, 36, put that onto our beam, and so now, I mean, piece of cake. The really cool thing about that also is that kit comes with the little tab. This hole is going to locate exactly where that tab is going to go, and when we build our frame, that thing will be sitting there bolted in. We'll know exactly where it needs to be, fixtured perfect.
Yeah, so we've got a guide plan. Now what we're going to do is make things a little bit easier on ourselves. We're going to take the multi-leaf spring apart and just use a single spring. And these are going to go slide right into our shackles.
That's rough, isn't it? God, this is such a tough kit to put together.
And then
That's the nice thing about it.
We're ready for our cross member. Now this spring perch cross member is also going to aid in building our frame. Because now that we've got this positioned, now we know the frame's got to go basically follow a couple of key points. So it's a guide, it's a roadmap, it's going to be pretty simple from here. A little bit of tricky work to get things to flow like you want them to, but with a great start like this, we're well on our way. So stick around, we're going to go to break, we'll see you in a little bit.
This one's a mouthful. I'm going to let you handle this. Welcome to the break room. We got our first Ask the Host segment here. This is from Andrew T.
And he's got some timing problems. So I pulled the distributor out. When I put it back in, I think I've got it a tooth off. But I don't have a mark on my damper, so I'm not quite sure. I might have other problems. Well, let's stop there and get you settled with that one first.
One problem at a time.
Right, so let's get you TDC. Now, one way or another, whether you use an insert in your spark plug, let's get you a mark on your damper. Then you can use a timing light, check your timing, set it right. Now you can move on to other problems.
Find top dead center, get your distributor in the correct place, then you can move on to other issues. Now, first thing we have today from Surf City Garage, this is their Dash Away interior detailer. Just spray it on, wipe it off, all kinds of different surfaces, even down to carpet, vinyl, plastic, no matter what you've got in your interior. Smells real nice, goes on very easy.
Not greasy, and it's got UV protectant, so it'll take care of all the interior bits on your car.
Now, once you've cleaned it using the Dash Away, go back with a Voodoo Leather Rejuvenator. That's going to protect it, moisturize it, give it that real deep, nice, clean look and shine.
It'll restore all your old leather, but it'll also take care of all your new leather and vinyl too.
Yeah.
And it's got beeswax in it for more UV protection, and it's got lanolin. We all know what lanolin does for our skin. Takes the old leather, rejuvenates it, keeps it nice and fresh, makes it last a lot longer.
Smells real nice. Another great product from Surf City Garage.
Yeah, now here's a neat one. This is from Cummins Power Generation. It's their EC30W. It's their auto start for your electric generator.
And what this does, it's going to actually monitor your battery, monitor when you're hooked up to shore power. So let's say if you're someone that you've got pets in the RV, you pull into your local store, you don't know how long you're going to be on. Normally you have to go over and turn on that generator to make sure that your pet is staying cool. This will monitor the temperature, monitor what's happening, and turn it on for you.
Yeah, and the nice thing is it's a wireless unit, and it's really simple to install. The average user, 30 minutes, you plug in the harness, you connect the B positive terminal on your generator, and you're ready to go. And it'll monitor whether you have shore power or not. So if you lose power, it'll kick on, save your batteries, but it's not going to waste fuel if you've got power.
Right, real simple, easy, way cool piece. The EC30W from Cummins.
Now check out this from Satisfied Brakes. This is their Pro Stop Ceramic Series brake pads.
Don't skimp on your pads. These are non-ferrous ceramic pads, real high quality.
They're going to give you long life with low dusting, basically no noise.
Yeah, They're chamfered and slotted per their OE specs. These are manufactured with VS technology. They're vehicle specific, so everything's going to be there for you. And it's a nice quality package.
Yeah, and they're going to take care of you because safety is the #1 thing when you're driving your family around. So these are Pro Stop Series from Satisfied Brakes.
Very cool product. All right, we got to get out of here. The break room is over. Got to get back to work. Send in your emails and your questions.
All right, let's do it.
For more information about anything you've seen on today's show, check out speedtv.com or visit TwoGuysGarage.com.
What do you think?
Oh, I think it looks fantastic. We're starting to get everything kind of tightened down, locked into position, at least tacked and ready to keep building. We've added a few more components on here from the SoCal front end kit.
We got our shocks on. Now these used to actually be aircraft technology back in the day.
That was high tech in the day.
Pretty funny. Now this still is a buggy front end, but now with a lot of updates that SoCal's done, we've got a steering stabilizer on there. We've got a panhard that's kind of set in place where it'll eventually be.
Yeah, we got our tie rods in. Basically, this thing is ready to start connecting frame rails to pick up points, and from there, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is, man, this is so fun. You just get the front end in there, you get the rear end in, you say you want to adjust the wheelbase. It's really easy. And, we did it for a lot less money than if you just go out and buy a whole chassis, taking the time, doing it yourself. And really all you need, a welder, chop saw, a table, tape measure, and you can build anything.
Yeah, today's episode's really about dreams and how to make one, at least get kick-started off, so you can get on that journey of having a good time. Now you can do it a couple different ways. You can make everything. You can buy kits, front ends and rear ends. You can make your own swoopy frame, and if you're not comfortable with that, there's a kit with everything on it. So there's always a level of what you can buy for your comfort level to get you started. So
me personally, I like to build everything. So it looks like we're out of time, but I think we got a great start on a cool car. Hopefully we'll get to finish it here on the show with some nice burnouts at the end. But for now, we got to go. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it.
See you guys next week.